45 past the hour, we're learning more about the failed military response to the U.S. Capitol siege. The Washington Post reports that the Pentagon restricted the D.C. National Guard commander's ability to roll out troops ahead of the January 6th riots. Major General William Walker said that after criticism of the D.C. Guard's response to the racial justice protests last June, the Pentagon took away his power to immediately deploy troops. So when Walker received a panicked call from the Capitol Police Chief warning that rioters were about to enter the U.S. Capitol, he needed approval by both the Defense Secretary himself along with the Army Secretary, which added to the delayed response. Meanwhile, the acting chief of the U.S. Capitol Police told members of Congress yesterday that her agency, quote, failed to meet its own high standards as well as yours. Willie?
And the Major General said his troops were just up the street, could have been there in minutes if they got approval. Meanwhile, the FBI continues to investigate the violent attack on the U.S. Capitol. The agency's top federal prosecutor expects indictments to be handed down as soon as this week. The Wall Street Journal reports that with the help of more than 200,000 tips, FBI agents across the country continue to build cases that some of the rioters carefully planned the attack. 3 alt-right groups are under intense scrutiny for their potential roles in the insurrection. Those include the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, a group largely composed of law enforcement and military personnel, and the 3 Percenters, an extremist wing of the gun rights movement. Several members of those groups already have been charged, including 3 people who face the most severe conspiracy allegations leveled so far. Joining us now, MSNBC chief legal correspondent and host of The Beat on MSNBC, Ari Melber. Ari, great to see you. It's been a long time. Let's start with this massive dragnet. They've got 400 people, the FBI does, the U.S. attorney says, in their sights, not charges for all of them yet, 135 of them. What does this operation look like from a prosecutor's standpoint to go through meticulously those 200,000 pieces of video evidence and to make charges against people who were there?
Well, as you just walked us through, there were multiple government failures. That's not even in doubt. The participating law enforcement organizations are saying that. And so what we're seeing now is, as you both mentioned, Willie, is the challenge of dealing with what was an on-site failure. I mean, we watch people trespass, commit crimes, and then walk out of there. And the police say that's partly because they were just overwhelmed. We know 5 died. We know that it became more of an emergency or even survival situation. I don't think that's overstated. Rather than an arresting one. So now we have one of the largest live data operations in modern FBI history, carefully combing through what we all watched and lived through and using all of the data and identification technology at their disposal to then meticulously try to track down people. One other difference here, again, a little obvious, you don't need to be a lawyer to know this, but it's part of the answer to your question, Willie, is they just have to go through and count these people up and then decide who's more important to arrest first. Because unlike, say, an investigation where you're not sure who did what, everyone you see in the pictures on your screen, everyone who actually breached was already committing at least one crime of trespass.
Yeah, and Claire, so 135 people have been arrested, 400 or so now have been identified as suspects, but the U.S. attorney saying we don't have probable cause on a lot of them yet, but the list of suspects as they go through all this evidence grows by the hour.
If they give the appropriate resources to this attempt to overthrow our democracy, they will also come up with other proof points. We now know there was a meeting with some of the Trump family and some of the people that might have been leading and planning this riot the next day, the day before, including Rudy Giuliani. We now know that the president told the Secretary of Defense he thought he might need 10,000 troops the next day. Now, why in the world would the president tell the Secretary of Defense they're going to need 10,000 troops and then have there be a delay in deploying those troops when, in fact, they began attacking and killing police officers? So there is a lot. I mean, for a prosecutor, this is a just a treasure trove of evidence about potential conspiracy, about assault, about murder. And it's going to take some time for them to do it right. But if they put the right resources on this, this is going to be an evolving story of criminal conduct and prosecution.
Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news, or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.